Hi, welcome back. Today, as promised a few videos back, is going to be a little bit more drill based of a practice. So working towards handstand for the first time for beginners. So we'll warm up the wrists, we'll warm up with some sun salutations to build some heat in the body, start to engage the arms and the core muscles of the tummy and the back. And then we're going to need a wall for today's practice. So if you can bring whatever you're watching this on close to a wall space, so that we'll have a little play with kicking up and walking our feet up the wall. Short and sharp as always, so that it's accessible and achievable for you to do on a regular basis. So when you're ready, we'll just come straight to all fours. So just centering your hands to stack below your shoulders. The key to any of the arm balances in yoga is to have your fingers spread nice and wide, so you've got a nice big surface area of the hands. And then just start to grip the pads of your fingertips into the floor, so much so that your middle knuckles begin to lift up. And what that does is give your hands just the kind of wobble space, basically, so that you have this kind of dynamic where the weight can start to rock from the heel edge of your hand into the knuckle edge. So you want that kind of space to always have this kind of back and forth, side to side wobble of the hand. So if the palms are flat, it doesn't give you that kind of gripping power. So your hands will be the drivers in any of the arm balances that you do, so that you can control the transfer of weight to which edge of your hand you need to catch your balance. That all comes in time, but that's what we're looking to achieve by that little kind of gripping into the floor of the hands. And then from here, just start to, from all fours, transfer the weight back and forward. So the shoulders just start to push beyond your wrists ever so slightly, so you get a little bit of a stretch going. Keep that active grip into the floor. And just slowing and deepening the breath as you do that, and maybe just circling here, so you start to move the wrists in all four directions. So of course, when we start to handstand in free space, we're going to fall lots. So you just want the wrists to be nice and happy to move in all directions, as your body weight will kind of throw in whichever direction it chooses to start with. And then we'll just get a little stretch going. So just as far as is comfortable for you, start to point the fingers back towards you. So if you're pretty tight here, that is likely to be enough of a stretch to start with. Otherwise, you can, to deepen, just start to press the hips back. So you feel the heels of the hands just lift slightly, and that will just stretch down the back side of the wrist. And then from here, let the fingers point to either side of your mat. So when you're really keen to just get into a handstand, it's really easy to want to skip this kind of seemingly more boring part of any arm balance practice, but it's really important long term. So I've had issues with the tendons in my wrist as well, because I used to just kind of jump in the adverts when watching TV and stuff, and just start to kick up to handstand to practice, but it's not good long term. So after a few circles with the fingers pointing side to side, just sitting back on the heels, and then just taking just a few breaths here, spreading the fingers, squeezing the hands into fists. So you start to get the forearms nice and warm. Spreading the fingers as wide as you can. So you'll really feel this heat up really quickly here. And then we'll come straight to a downward facing dog. So hips move up and back. You can pedal the feet, so one knee bends as you press the other heel down into the floor. And then switching sides. And checking in with the foundation of your hands again here. So do you find that as soon as you come into downward dog, that all of the weight starts to kind of dip down or dump down into the heel of your hands? If that's the case, start to retrain your grip so that you keep the weight distributed really nice and evenly through the heel edge of your hand, but also actively pushing the knuckle edges of your hands and the finger pads into the floor. And so it might take some retraining to get that, but that again will strengthen your grip, strengthen your wrists and the grip in your hands and the muscles of your hands over time. So when you're ready, just walking the feet forward to your hands. Taking just 2 breaths in a forward fold. And then from the first one, bend at the knees, rolling up through the spine, bone by bone, head comes up last of all. Starting just 2 rounds of sun salutation A, Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, sweep the arms up, lift the gaze. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift up, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, place the palms, step to plank pose and lower through to chaturanga. So find this hover now. So you start to build greater strength in the arms, breathing in, upward facing dog. Exhale back, downward facing dog. So if you do still need to modify those movements by dropping the knees, you can do that. If you find that that is a need for you, then this practice might be a little bit intense, working with the arms, but give it a go, see how you feel. Just always listen to your own body if you need to break out or to rest or skip any parts. And so when you're ready, feet walk forward to the hands, soften at the knees, rolling up through the spine. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale, diving forward. Up to you this time, you can step or jump. So inhale, halfway lift up. Exhale, place the palms, step or jump your way back to chaturanga. Breathing in, lift the hips, tummy strong, upward dog. Exhale back, downward facing dog for 5 breaths. And again, up to you. You can walk the feet forward to your forward bend, or you can play with jumping. So as you strengthen your handstand, the jump or the float forward will progress over time. We're looking to kind of really jump all of the way and have a lot of trust that our arms can catch us when we're jumping forward. So initially, it kind of just starts like big thuddy jumps. But over time, as you get more confident with the weight going in your hands, again, that grip, the grip of your fingertips will be your brake. So you inhale up onto your tippy toes. So now my shoulders stack over my wrists, fingers grip into the floor, and I like to jump forward on the exhale. So bending the knees and exhale, hips go up, feet come down and fold in. Inhale, stretching up. Exhale, hands come to prayer at the center of the chest. Just taking a few breaths here, and then we'll come into our drills. So we want really strong shoulders to be able to first have confidence that we can begin to hold our weight completely in our hands. So to do this, we can start from the ground level in our downward facing dog. So in some calisthenics workouts, this is done with your feet propped up on a box or on the seat of your sofa. So if you wanted to go heavy and do that to start with, you can, but otherwise we can do some little shoulder press ups from our downward facing dog. So perhaps shortening your stance, your feet walk in a little bit, and that just allows your shoulders to stack over your wrists. Taking an inhale from the top, and then as you exhale, bending at the elbows, and just start to bring the head down to the floor as if you were going to go into a tripod headstand. Taking a breath in here, and then exhale, see if you can push all the way back to your downward dog. Inhale here, exhale to lower. Pause for a breath in. So once all your weight is down onto the floor, it's much harder to push it all the way back up. So just dropping the head down and pushing it back up. And again, this is going to build lots of heat in the shoulders. We don't want to do too much and fatigue them too soon, because otherwise we lose the power that we'll have left to try to do our handstand work. So just a few rounds of this. If you were just going to do this on any one day, you could do it to the point of fatigue. But for the purpose of today, we'll stop there and we'll just walk the hands in towards the feet. So we end up at the back of the mat. Take each hand to each opposite elbow and just take a couple of breaths here, resting let the weight of the shoulders just hang heavy. And so next up then, we're working our way up from the floor, but not jumping into kicking up if that feels quite scary, which it does for most people to start with if you haven't done a handstand since you were a kid. So a good place in this L-shaped handstand to measure where you want your hands to be to start with is to face the wall and just kick your foot up against it. So you want your kind of leg length is a good measurement. So now where my standing foot is where I'm going to place roughly my hands. And so then I know that hopefully, unless my proportions, if I've got longer legs or shorter arms, you'll be able to figure that out for your own body, but roughly that's a good guide so that when you step up 1 foot at a time, you're in a nice L shape, hopefully, with your hips stacking directly over your wrists. So my elbows are bending because my arms are getting tired. I want to try and keep my arms forcefully pushing as straight as they can. And then the feet can come down. So that's really tough. And if your hips are stacking just right over your shoulders, you will feel your tummy muscles actively suck in and up. They have to hold you there. And I have to come down quite quickly. So it's one that I'm still working on holding. But aiming to initially start holding that position for 20 seconds and then building it up day by day or week by week to 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then to try and hold it for a minute. So the longer you can hold that stance, and that is really tough on the tummy muscles, the stronger your held handstand will be when you start to go up. So we'll do one more if you came out at the same time as me. So again, hands set up in the same place. If you need to stand up just to reset yourself, it's a really good one as well to film yourself with if you can just set your kind of camera phone up, because often the hips are just a little bit back from the shoulders, and if you're just that inch out, you won't feel that kind of zipping in of the tummy muscles, and you won't quite get that extra strength from the pose. So hips stacking over your shoulders is really what you're looking to achieve there. So 1 foot at a time, walking up, find that little L shape, trying to keep the arms pushing straight, keep the knuckle edges of your hands pressing into the floor, thighs really active, and then as you do drop as lightly as you can, so you keep the tummy muscles strong all the way down. So once we've had a play with that, now we're going to start to kick up for the first time against the wall, just to start to get a feel for how the handstand feels initially with the wall there to catch up. So again, in terms of stance and how far your hands are away from the wall, about a good arm's length to start with. So it's normal that the spine will kind of banana to begin with. So about an arm's length is a good place so that you're a little bit far away, so you get the feel for the weight transferring in your hands, but the wall's definitely there to catch you. So I'll place my hands here again. In fact, I'm going to go a little step in, so a little bit shorter than my arm stance. So setting up your foundations immediately from the off, so you build good habits every time. So fingers spread nice and wide, finger pads grip into the floor. Now, people tend to kind of do that sort of old, the thing that we did when we were kids, that sort of gymnastics kind of big push in. Now, over time, if you're coming back to handstands as a beginner, that really throws your body weight in, and it's a lot of momentum, and you're setting yourself up for failing on catching the balance because you're just throwing your weight so far forward. So we want to try to build like a little bit of a precise kick up. So you set your hands up, try to push down into the floor, so you do lock the elbows out here, trying to keep the arms as rigidly straight as you can, which is what we just tried to do in our L shape. And then just start to, in this kind of standing split position, roll onto the tips of your standing toes, take a little bend in this knee, so we're going to bend and kick up. So the first time you do this, especially if you're feeling a little bit scared, you probably just get a little kick, and you'll find that you don't go very far at all. Switch legs, so you'll find out which is your stronger leg. Same again, transfer the weight forward into your hands so the shoulders stack over the wrists, bend at the knee, and just little kicks. As
as you build confidence and you can kick a bit harder, then you'll kick up and find the wall. Once you're here, so I can feel that my spine is bananaing here, and we want to avoid that as much as we can, so pushing the arms as straight as you can, and then bend one knee so you bring the sole of your foot to the wall. So this should start to then help me as I bring the other leg up straight and point the toes, start to get a feel for balancing off the wall. And then keep the hands actively squeezing, arms squeezing towards each other, point the toes, push down, and over time, eventually, hopefully, you start to catch a little bit of air time. So as soon as you do that, when you start to bring one leg away from the wall, you're bringing more weight into the hands, you start to feel that really strong pressure pushing down into the heel edge of your hand. You're working really hard to try to push as much as you can through the knuckle edge of your hand. So if you imagine this is kind of your hand position, I'm really out of breath now. This is your hand position, the knuckles are your middle point. So if this is your seesaw, the two seats and the seesaw, then your knuckles are that kind of center point, the tipping point for you to get your balance. So it's really key to building a strong handstand to, as much as you can, be able to force the weight forward into the knuckle part of your hand, so that you can then use your fingertips as the brake to send the weight back into the heel of your hand and vice versa. So play with as many kicks as you want to. Again, once your heels make it to the wall from that start point, you'll feel the spine banana. Building a really strong tummy will start to counter that over time. So that nice, we'll do one more, that nice, so your heels are at the wall, banana spine, bend the knee so the sole of the foot comes to the wall, and just start to straighten. And then feel like you're kicking your tailbone up towards your top heel, and then zip the tummy muscles in as tight as you can. Keep squeezing the arms, and again, start to pick both feet up away from the wall and just see. It's all about body sensory, proprioception, so you start to be able to sense your body in space, and that takes a really long time, a regular practice to do that, so that you start to build muscle memory and be able to feel where you are in space and correct that over time. So it's definitely a long-term practice, but they are a really great few drills to get you started. So take some time here now just to slow your breath down, seated or laying in Shavasana for as long as you have remaining for your practice, and just slow the breath, stretch out the shoulders a little bit, a little downward dog or puppy pose, and I'll bring you some more drills on handstands and other arm balances really soon. Thank you so much for joining me as always. I will see you next time.